And welcome back to the coverage of YCS Bologna 2025. I'm here with John Alexis, who is joining me in a beautiful meta breakdown discussion. So, first of all, I think that we have quite a few events lately, and I was actually watching you 2 weeks ago at the French Open, and 10 rounds. So it was quite of a big tournament. We know that the French community in Yu-Gi-Oh is very big, very passionate about the game. So first of all, I'd like to ask you how did it go? How was the meta game throughout the day, and what can we expect to this tournament?
I mean, absolutely. We had a few tournaments over the past few weeks, and we had a lot of things that we learned about those tournaments. First of all, Dracotail is at the top of the format, of course. A lot of players, a lot of duelists choose to play this deck, and we had almost 25% of the room, which was only Dracotail players. So, of course, this deck is very, very good, but the fact that it is chosen may just lead people to just play more out, but we are going to talk about that in a few minutes. Right behind the Dracotel strategy, we have the Mitsurugi strategy. Very, very strong, of course. We know that Mitsurugi can just be played in almost every single deck because there is nothing that prevents you from doing so. And of course, it is very, very strong. We know that Habakiri is very strong. When you see Habakiri, you are scared about that. You are not very happy if you are the opponent. And but something that really surprised me was the fact that Malice actually is the third most played deck. And people thought that maybe this deck wasn't the best deck after the recent limitations on the cards, but still some players decided to bring the deck and it worked very, very well. So it was very interesting, but we saw some tendencies, and it's going to be interesting to see if we keep going into that direction or if things just change a little bit.
And I also feel like, for example, back to YCS Lille, which was not a while ago. It was actually 2 months ago, but it seems a very big period of time. For example, as you mentioned, Malice was not considered back then. For example, I remember most of our players were not siding Artifact Lancia. It was not there in the side deck at all, and I really liked how the trend changed throughout the past 2 months, especially because on one hand I really feel like that the metagame slowly adjusted itself. We also had Dracotail back then in Lille, but it was not really a big thing yet. And then at YCS Pittsburgh, for example, once again Dracotail I think dominated the field, right? Of course, also the mirror match, I really feel like it's very difficult to play. Most of the time when you start with Dracotail, you really have a good hand, but sometimes you get counteracted, and there are so many good cards in the current format, and that I'm thinking of, for example, Ghost Bell, Ash Blossom, that stop all the traps of Dracotails, for example. But as you mentioned, Mitsurugi, I really feel like that's always been one of those contenders, being there at the top tables, winning matches, and I really feel like it's one of those also decks that can be combined with something else. We have seen it, for example, with Yummy, which is of course still one of the best decks in the room, I would say. But I really want to see how our players this weekend are going to approach the event, because of course it's 15 rounds of Swiss rounds and then top 8. And also the trend, how is it gonna be? For example, we talked about Artifact Lancia. What about Drone and Lockbird? Do you expect people are gonna be playing it during this event?
Absolutely. I mean, if I remember correctly, it was something like 40% of Dragon Lockbirds in the main deck last week at Paris for the regional. And so that means that people are just considering the fact that they have to stop decks like Mitsurugi, of course. And Dragon Lockbirds is a very good card against this deck in particular. And in the side deck, there were even more Dragon Lockbirds. So almost the entire room was playing this card, and I think that might be a deciding factor regarding the fact that, I mean, if you have to face a lot of Dragon Lockbirds during 15 rounds, it's going to be a lot. And you talked about some cards, for example, Lancia. Yeah, Lancia is back in the side decks. I talked about the winner of the French Open, and he just told me that, I mean, yeah, Lancia is back because he thinks that Malice can just bring it home and just win it all, win the entire event, because it's still a very strong deck going first. Going second, you have still some very, very powerful tools like the Shifter as well. Shifter is, of course, a very strong card. You still also have some cards like Dimension Fisher, which is back into the main and side decks of the Malice players. So all those tools against Draco Tail, which is, of course, the deck which is expected to be the most played. I mean, the deck is dangerous. Malice is very dangerous, so you have to get some tools to try to beat the deck. So the Lancias, they are back in the side decks. And I think that during this event, it will revolve around the ability of the players to just try to think of what are going to be the matchups and try to adjust their main deck and their side deck to those threats. For example, the draws, the Lancia, of course, the Shifter and the Fisher, all those cards, but also another card which is very good against the Draco Tail strategy, the Retaliating Sea, which has seen some plays in the side decks, and a lot of players, they are playing it. Even if your deck cannot play under such a restriction, you can still play the Retaliating. We've seen that especially last week with some Mitsurugi Yomi players. You know, when you're playing Yomi, you don't really want to get your resources banished and not going into the graveyard, because you can still not activate your Synchro effects. But still, some players decided that they wanted to play the Retaliating to try to counter the strategy. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the trends are going to be. And we know that there are not only those 3 decks, but also some other decks that are just sleepers. For example, the Fire King strategy or some strategies like that. What deck do you expect to be able to try to sneak in and try to beat the 3 big elephants in the rooms?
Well, on top of my mind, for example, I have K9s. Of course, I really feel like the K9s, it's one of those engines that needs to be mixed up with something else. I think it really can counteract well Draco Tail. But what I'm thinking is, for example, if you remember at YCS Lille, I think every single future match we had a different deck.
Absolutely.
I think this is what really what I really enjoyed over the last events. For example, over the last for the last few months. Of course, there's been a trend lately for Draco Tail, obviously, and for example Mitsurugi. But what I really feel like that sometimes the creativity is what really brings you the added value to the table, right? Because, for example, thinking about the past, I'm considering Memento. Which has always been one of my favorites, because it's always been very difficult to stop your opponent, where to activate your interruptions. And for this event, honestly, I'm a fan of Lunalight, I have to say. I really like the deck. Also, I have memories from the World Championship this year, seeing Lunalight at the top tables, also in the finals. And I feel like the Lunalight can be a solid choice for the event. But on the other hand, I have to say that I'm a big fan of Sky Striker. I was playing Sky Striker right after when it was released years ago, and I mean, of course, the deck has some potential. Of course, Draco Tail, as you mentioned, is scary. We have to face it. It's just the way it is. But on the other hand, I really feel like the Sky Striker is very consistent. It's always been one of those decks that really takes some time to get things started, but when it pushes, you're in trouble. So Sky Striker is definitely one of the decks I'm looking forward at the future match table for this weekend. And you have one in your mind?
I mean, I think that Lunalight is a very, very good deck indeed. The fact that you are able to just bring those Liga Dancer on the field, I mean, this is very, very scary, because there are a lot of decks that are not able to just out the card. And the fact that also it can surprise some players, because not all the people in the room will be prepared to this matchup. And it is kind of difficult, to see all the lines, to see how the guy in front of you plays. And yeah, I think this is a very, very, very solid choice to get into the tournament. But you mentioned Sky Striker. This is one of my favorite decks. I've been playing this for almost 3 months right now, and I think that it can bring a lot. I don't think it is strong enough to just go and win it all, to be honest, because of course you have some very, very, very strong things in the deck. The fact that you can just break any field thanks to all those cards that you have, the Widow and Core, but also the non-engine cards. But I mean, there is a problem, and the problem is that when you have to face a complete field, it is very hard
Yeah.
to break this field. We've talked about Yomi Mitsurugi. I mean, going first, the deck is very, very, very scary, and it might be too hard for the deck to break the field and just install your own field and be able to just get another aggression on the turn 3 of the opposite player. So I think it's going to be very hard for Sky Striker to just perform. But I mean, I hope it will be the case.
I really hope so. I really hope
I
so.
hope it will be the case.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there is a deck that I really like also, and this is the branded strategy.
Oh, yes.
The branded strategy, it had some new cards, and not only used in the deck, but also in some other decks. You know, the Fallen of the Virtues,
Yes.
a very, very, very good quick play spell, which has seen some plays in a lot of decks, especially in Sky Striker, by the way. And I wonder if the deck can do well, because going first, it's of course very good with the engine, but also with the ability to play some cards like, for example, the Sanctifier.
Just one random card, you know, the first card that comes to your mind,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Why
But
not?
also going second, the deck is very, very good.
Yeah.
You know, you have the ability to break some field, like Sky Strikers,
Yeah.
for example. But I think it's even stronger. You know,
Yeah.
it is very powerful. And when you are the opponent, it is very hard to just deal with all the cards that you have, because a single card can lead to so many resources. The Brand Fusion, fantastic card, of course, but also the High Spirit, which is very good, and all those new additions, and the fact that now Albaz is able to take multiple monsters with the new addition of the new fusion card.
Yeah.
I mean, the deck is very good, and I hope that we're going to see some branded players during the weekend.
I mean, I really hope so. And I mean, as mentioned, I really feel like it really comes to your, you know, approach to the tournament, how you really want to have consistency on one hand, but on the other side, I really feel like if you are to play Malice, you have to say, I'm going to go for it, even though Lancia is becoming more popular. I really feel like that the trend has always been, you have to play what you really feel comfortable of and with at the table. And also, you know, the added values, of course, for example, on top of my mind, there's Dinkabui. We always mention him during the stream. Is one of these deck builders that are really impressed us over the past years, I would say. If there's going to be one of those decks we're not expecting, and hopefully we will find out, because usually this is what happens. This is what we really love about the game. We have a trend of decks, but at the end of the day, there's always that deck you haven't thought of.
And
It's
all of a
winning them
sudden, Apophis.
yeah, hopes. And I mean, hopefully we will get the chance to see all of this in action. So thanks so much for being with us. And don't go anywhere, because we will be back soon with more coverage for YCS Bologna.